Hello there, you're watching SME On Point. Thank you so much for staying with SABC News. Small businesses are breathing a sigh of relief as the reprieve from load shedding continues. At the height of constant power interruptions, business owners like Manyike had to dig a little bit deeper into their pockets to find alternative ways of keeping their businesses operational. It has been close to 150 days without Eskom implementing load shedding. The interruptions in power supplies have cost the economy dearly, small businesses being the biggest casualties. The owner of the light candles, Manyike, joins other business owners in his excitement of being able to produce candles on time for his store. His business, based in Pimville, Soweto, serves mostly traditional healers and spiritual workers. Chibula recalls the measures he had to take to find an alternative in order to keep the doors open at the height of load shedding.
I'm in the production industry, manufacturing, so once there's no electricity, that means we've lost a whole day of manufacturing. And even if it's just for a couple of hours, I mean, some of our machinery requires the things to be on for a couple of hours to melt the wax. So it was holding us back. I mean, our profits declined heavily because of that. We had to start investing in generators, hiring out generators. But when there was stage 6, when we had stage 6, there was a time where we spent close to 20,000 Rand in hiring out a generator.
After failing to secure a job, psychology graduate Chibula found himself working for a candle making small business before branching out on his own. While it has been liberating, he admits that starting a business was not easy.
It's been tough, you know. I mean, I set up this whole business without any funding. I had to start from scratch. I literally started with 2,000 Rand that I had saved up, bought some wax, started making candles in glass jars, and slowly reinvested that money back into the business to us getting here.
Candle making has been growing, with more people trying their hand at making their own. With predictability on the electricity front, more people are likely to start their own businesses just like Chibula. As more people discover their spiritual callings, candles are in demand.
I guess one thing I underestimated is the fact that candles are very spiritual. So even what sets my business apart is I focus mainly on religious and spiritual people, because they use candles for their everyday practices, for prayer, for upahla. So candles are actually life, you know. Gold signifies wealth and prosperity, and if you're praying for some or manifesting anything that has to do with financial gain, people use gold a lot. So with the white, it's more for peace, for tranquility, for being calm, especially if you're a person who suffers from a lot of stress. Just having a white candle on in the background signifies that, or manifests that rather. With the blue and yellow, that's towards the spiritual side, African spirituality. I know the yellow is used to connect with your maternal ancestors, and the blue is used to connect with your paternal ancestors.
Business owners in the country are battling what is termed a growing trend engulfing them, where they are forced to pay a protection fee or face the possibility of their businesses closing down or even personal harm. Fortunately, Chibula is not a victim of bullying or extortion that has gripped others in the small business industry.
I very much sympathize with them, and I can imagine, I think some businesses have actually closed, because what these people who extort money from businesses don't realize is they might think this business makes 100,000 Rand, but they don't understand that from that 100,000 Rand there's cost of sales, there's salaries that need to be paid, there's rent, there's all these expenses, and now because you're extorting this business, you now add on to that pressure, and some businesses unfortunately have to close down because of that. So I very much sympathize with them.
SABC News, Johannesburg. Thank you to the Light Candle for sharing their story with at SME On Point. Remember, we are on Facebook. Our handle is at SME On Point. We thank you so much for engaging with us. We've had so many more people following SME On Point, and please do continue to follow us and tell others to join us. And we want to be a one big family of small business owners and supporters. The anticipation of the two-pot system is increasing, but so is the confusion of whether or not to withdraw from your pension fund. While some vow not to touch their savings pot, others can't wait to access it. A fair number of people have had a plan for this money, and most likely others don't have a plan yet. We here at SME On Point have figured we'd look into the possibility of starting a side hustle with that money. This is to potentially generate extra income while minimizing the possibility of future withdrawals. John Manyike, the head of financial education at Old Mutual, and certainly a friend of SME OnPoint, is here to give us a few ideas. Thank you so much for joining us here on SME OnPoint. Social media is going really abuzz. People are waiting for their 2 pots. What has been your experience? What have you seen so far?
Wow, I've seen how people were reacting to what would be financial advisors trying to encourage people with tips on social media. And you hear people saying, no, we don't need advice, we just want the pots. Whatever you are saying to us is coming through this ear and it passes through the other ear. So people have made up their mind, but I don't think it's everyone. I mean, if I look at the study we did this year, the Old Mutual Savings and Investment Monitor, it shows that 52% of working South Africans are more likely to withdraw from the 2 pot. But then again, that number goes higher when you look at the younger generation. So certainly, when you look at young people, they're thinking, why talk to me about retirement? This thing is too far. I want my money now.
Someone I spoke to this morning when I was asking her if she's going to withdraw, she says, what if I die next week and I haven't gotten my money yet? But before we even get to the ideas of the kind of side hustles one can start, let's look at some of the things that people might be disappointed at discovering, such as taxes and transaction fees. A lot of people who say they're going to withdraw, I don't think they are aware that they're not going to get their money at as it is, as 30,000, if that's how much you have in your savings pot. And of course, when that money is going to be clocking into your account.
So you're right. I think a couple of things, and it's very important to manage people's expectations. The 1st of September is on a Sunday, so we know people will be dressing up to go to their retirement fund to go and put in that application first thing Monday morning. Now, but here's the thing. It's highly unlikely that when you put in your application on Monday, the 2nd of September, that the following day you will get your money, because the retirement fund administrator has to submit an application on your behalf to SARS for a tax directive. You are going to be taxed on that amount. I know this is something that people on social media say, no, please, we don't want to hear about tax, but tax is real. But here's the thing. If it so happens that your tax status is not in good check, the chances are, if you owe SARS, the SARS will be entitled to take the entire money. We're not trying to scare people not to take money and say, but I mean, if you know you're in good standing, you have no worry, you have no need to worry. But I mean, if you know that your tax situation is not in good check, or you've never filed for any tax return in your life, and yet you are supposed to be filing for tax, SARS will certainly be interested in looking at that. I
suspect we're going to have a lot of unhappy people, especially because most don't want to hear. They don't want to know. They just want that money. Let's get to the exciting part. I've had a few thoughts of my own about what businesses one can start. I've even gone as far as thinking, how about if you do decide to withdraw that money, let's say it's a group of 4 or 5 ladies, and each one has, let's say, 10,000 to withdraw, and we decide 5,000 each. We're putting it into a stokvel, but we're keeping that money for a maximum of 3 years instead of keeping it for the normal 24 months that we normally do and disperse it afterwards. Do you think that's a good idea? And what sort of ideas do you have of your own, John?
Look, there's quite a number, honestly speaking. I mean, people have always wanted to get into business, but then the barrier has always been the capital. Well, we know that 2 pots is not going to give people 1 million rand in the first year. Well, even highly unlikely for the but maybe over time. But the number of opportunities that people can look at. I'm talking about simple ideas for business. This could be a beauty business. We know beauty business is quite common. As long as you can compete and you've got the skills and you've got some business acumen, because business, you need to understand that there are expenses and you have to be able to separate your personal income from business. So there's a beauty business, there's catering business. You might want to buy catering equipment to start competing for opportunities to do that. You might want to even build a room, in your backyard.
I thought that was quite innovative and very special. Please tell us more.
Look, we know there's a huge demand for accommodation in the townships. And what we see is people actually building a small I don't want to call it a shack, a room.
Yeah.
You know, we call it a room.
Mm.
We don't even call it an apartment, it's a room. So you can have that, and then, but at least that can supplement your monthly income, so that you reduce the chances of you being tempted to access this 2-pot every single year. Others maybe might want to, depending on what your interests are, maybe you are a photographer, go and buy yourself a decent camera that can take good pictures and good quality. And then weddings, you could be the one.
We could also look at, if you're a good salesperson, you could look at buying into things like your Tupperware, your Inuka, and reselling those.
Yes.
I know that winter is now a thing of the past. We'll see it again next year, but I saw quite a popular trend of people selling beef bones to people. You stock them in bulk from an abattoir or a butchery, wherever, and you sell beef bones, because beef is generally very expensive. And a lot of people don't mind having beef bones as a relish in the evening. I've also seen when you go to social media, particularly look at the likes of TikTok. You find that there's a machine in China that you can buy that helps you to put a screen cover on your phone, and it takes about 30 minutes, right? There's also a great idea of printing T-shirts. There's always new slogans, because South Africans are very, very creative, right? One could look at a slogan, right? Let's take T-shirts, hoodies, shorts, but the reselling business is quite a big thing. However, as much as we are giving viewers these advice about what kind of business they could look into, we also need to caution them about discipline, because it's very important that a person can take that money and be determined, yes, I'm going to do this, but you also need to be disciplined and have a plan. Tell us a little bit about that.
So one of the things that I think is not spoken much about, you know, are some of the SETAs that are out there to support people, the seeders of this world. You have the Gauteng Enterprise propellers of this world. I'm sure there might be clapping hands that are marketing them, but these are entities that have an interest in helping small to medium businesses. So engage those. If you're in agriculture, there's a SETA there. If you are in services, so engage them, and they do provide some courses and to help you understand how to write up a business plan, and also how to navigate the world of getting additional funding for your business.
Some of the people that I also spoke to have talked about furthering their education. If you are not necessarily business minded, not everyone has the patience to run a side hustle or a small business. One could look at furthering their studies. There are short courses that one can do on entrepreneurship and small business development, in fact. And I was also just thinking about in the advent of investments, right? One can look at investing in things like gas, right? With electricity prices going up, and Eskom also looking at increasing their tariffs, maybe you could take that and install a gas geyser, a gas stove in your home. Would that be prudent?
No, absolutely. Look, anything that you can do that's going to give you a step up, I think is definitely a good idea. Even if you decide to say, well, I'm not a business person, but I'm simply going to be settling my debts. But make sure you don't go back to Mashonisa, and then try and maintain a good posture when it comes to managing your finances.
Let's do hope that this particular era of the 2-pot system is the one that will help us to get on a new footing of looking at debt differently, and hopefully paying off a little bit of debt that is there, that has low income, low interest. John Manyike of Old Michelle, thank you so much for joining us here on SME On Point. We really appreciate your time. I've been speaking to John Manyike. We've given you a couple of ideas. Go on social media, look up some more, surprise us, and please engage us on our social media page at SME OnPoint, and remember to support small businesses in your communities. Let's keep those rands and cents circulating.